What's going on? What's going on, Internet Land? Dan McCall here. I officially say Internet Land this time because I'm actually on 3 social media channels at the same time. It's the first time I'm doing this. It actually makes me feel a little bit nervous because there's like all these cameras on me like everywhere. I'm not going to be able to look directly at you during this episode of Whatever It Takes Wednesday. Just rolling solo here today, and I'm going to talk about some of my past achievements that are like all in the top 1% range in this, and then I'm going to talk about some philosophies that I applied, to make that happen. So yeah, it's so crazy the way it looks right now for me because I've never had all these different cameras on me at the same time, so I'm not sure which camera to look at. So if you catch me looking like at one direction, down or up or something like that, I'm just trying to like look at all the cameras or whatever. But yeah, if you see this on Facebook, feel free to give me some love. Hit the love button, the like button, all that stuff. Feel free to comment below, drop in and say hello. Feel free to ask any questions anytime while I'm live here. I would encourage. First off, I'd like to just thank you for tuning in to Whatever It Takes Wednesday. This is episode 10, so we're 10 weeks in. I think that's I think the consistency of that itself is a pretty good success. I know a lot of people start these kinds of things and they don't continue to do them. They don't stay consistent and persistent. I once heard before that if you're not persistent and consistent, you're non-existent. So I don't know if you heard that saying or not, but it's a good one. Persistent, consistent, you're non-existent. So it's good to it's good to persist, and continue to take action over time. But what I'm going to talk about really quickly is I'm just going to touch on a few like success points in my life. I'm actually going to go back. Before I do that, what I want to say is look for us next week. We're actually going to do a reversal interview with my buddy Paul Beester. He's going to be doing co-hosting here with me. Probably from there out or sometime after that. We're going to be bringing on different kinds of guests, both of us. And we're going to be, taking turns interviewing people, things like that. So the show's going to keep on growing and expanding and going into the philosophy to talk about in a little bit. But we'll go more in depth about my story next week. But I do want to just touch on a couple things that I've done in my life. They're in the top 1% bracket. Like the only 1%, achieve these kinds of results. I'm going to take it back. I just thought about this before I hopped on the show. Back in 1992, when I was 12 years old, I actually flew out to California, and I was a figure skater. A lot of people don't know this about me. I was a figure skater, and I didn't do it for too long because I wanted to do like a tougher sport. I ended up playing football. I was like, I want to do something tougher. I wanted to play a harder sport, but I actually did really well in it. It actually gave me like really good posture, really good leg strength and things like that. I had like a partner and stuff like that. She's on Facebook. She might end up seeing this. And we actually went to California and competed. And I ended up winning second place in the United States. At 12 years old, I won second place as a solo in the United States, and then I won third place in the United States in team dance on roller skates. So they didn't even have. I think they stopped that now. I think it's only ice skates now. But that was like in the top 1%. Really, I mean, it's pretty cool. I didn't really even think about it during the time, and now that I'm older, I like that kind of stuff more. Like, like I think gymnastics is cool and all the sports that are like more girly, I think that they're cool, now. But like when I was younger, I was like, I want to do something, be like more of a tough sport, So that was pretty cool, and I didn't really realize that I was applying the philosophies that I'm going to talk about. Talk to him, bro. I see you, Sambone. See you too, Kathy Shane. Thanks for coming. So So that was a really cool thing that I did that applied these philosophies. And it's cool that I see Kathy Shane on here too, because I was going to touch on martial arts, and her husband is actually my sensei for many years in martial arts. I'll just skip right ahead to that actually too. Another thing I did in the top 1% bracket is become a black belt in martial arts. Like 100 people walk in the door, and only one person ends up becoming a black belt. And that goes to some of the success principles and philosophies that I'm going to talk about shortly here too. In 1999, I actually oh, cool. Hey, what's up? Awesome. Yeah, so in '99, I started another thing that I did pretty cool that was like in the top 1 percentile of people doing, because 10 businesses start in 5 years, there's only one left or whatever, or 10 years, I forget what the percentages are or whatever, but this is definitely in the top 1% too. In '99, I started a landscaping business with a lawnmower that I actually walked down the street and took out the garbage. So like, people ask me all the time like about like scalability and stuff like that in business, and they're like, hey, you think $1,000 is enough to get started, or you think 10,000 is enough to get started? And like, you're talking to a guy that like started a landscaping business, with a lawnmower that he took out of the trash. You know what I mean? So like, that was like one of my top 1% achievements too, like as far as like business stories. Because a few years later, I had a six-figure income with it, and I had 6 trucks and 2 trailers and multiple crews working for me, a secretary, assistant, like all that structure, So it's funny, like I said, like people ask me if different things are scalable, and everything's scalable. It's all scalable. It's just a matter, like, you're the secret, It's all a matter of if you apply the philosophies, and if you stick to it, and if you scale it up, and if you bring it, it's like people say, oh, this doesn't work, and I'm like, this works, you don't work. You know what I mean? That's a thing. So I like what Jim Rohn said. He said, we need to work harder on ourselves than we do on our job. And I know our buddy Paul Beeser actually mentioned that particular quote a couple weeks ago when he was on here. And it's powerful. It's powerful because that's the truth of the matter. Usually it works. It's usually that you don't work. You know what I mean? So those are just like a couple of my achievements. We're going to go into like a couple really cool things that I did. Here, I'll just share a couple other ones too. In 2014 and 15, I went to the top 1% of a couple different network marketing companies too. And then my Amazon business, hit the top 1% of that, of making a 6-figure income selling on Amazon. That's a top, around the 1%, around the 1 percentile. So I've hit a lot of things like in the 1 percentile, like in the great bracket, like where only a select few have done that. So how have I done that? Like first off, before I talk about it, I'm not here to act like I'm great or better than anybody, because I'm really a big major believer that we can all learn something from each other, right? And my failures, let me tell you something too. I've had lots of failures, and they've humbled me. Because I always retract back, like if I feel it, because there is a difference between arrogance and confidence, and I like to think of myself as someone that's confident, not arrogant, because I think arrogance, I just think it's really unattractive, and I don't like people that I think that are arrogant. Why is that? Like, why did I do something to like only the 1%, do? Why did I achieve things that only 1% do? And I think it goes back to something that's really, really powerful, that I heard years ago. I read in a book with Tony Robbins. He talked about it, and it really stuck with me. And it's called Kanai, and it means constant and never-ending improvement. So like, because the reason why that's so powerful is because it's not what you do once that matters. It's what you do a little bit every day, each day, over a long period of time that really makes the difference. It's kind of like when someone's like playing golf. If they turn it a little bit, it's just going to go in a completely different direction. over a long stretch. You know what I mean? So I learned that from Tony Robbins' Kanai, meaning constant, never-ending improvement. And he actually got it from the Japanese with the cars when they outperformed the American cars. It was called Kaizen. And that meant the same thing, like constant, never-ending improvement. And they just kept on improving, their car, their model. You know what I mean? That's how they outperformed the American cars years ago. And now it's not the same as it was. But that was like one of the biggest secrets to success, is having daily disciplines, and having constant and never-ending improvement. And then later on in my years, I read a book by a guy named Jeff Olson, The Slight Edge, and he kind of said the same philosophy, like the 1% a day. His philosophy was like the 1% a day philosophy, like what you do, which basically means what you do a little bit each day over a long period of time really made a difference, and that being the secret. So this is really crazy that I got all these cameras going at the same time. So hey, what's up, Josh? Hey man, I'm saying prayers for you, man. Saying prayers for you, man. With what you're going through over there. What's up, Hakeem? Good to see you on here. Good to see you around some good people, Hakeem. Joe Stewart and them guys are good. They're good people. Hey, Merle, I see you on there. Cool. Thanks for coming on. But yeah, so I just wanted to touch on that, and something else that I was just thinking about too. It's in relation to constant, never-ending improvements and daily disciplines. Doing these things each day. One of the biggest things, and this is just my own opinion. Like I always say, I'm always just giving my perspective. Is that a lot of times the breakthroughs that you're waiting for to happen, a lot of times those happen like exactly at the exact moment that you want to quit. Those are the times when you're getting ready to break through. Like when you're getting ready, like when you go too far, that's when you know how far you can actually go. You ever heard that saying? Those that are willing to go too far are able to find out how far that they can actually go, right? So those breakthroughs, it's just like when in martial arts, when we do I just seen my sensei on here, Sensei Steve. I'm really grateful for him. Like in martial arts, what we do is when we do like the belt test, we push people real hard. They're already ready to take the belt test as far as curriculum goes, but we push them real hard so that they can see like how far that they can actually go. You know what I mean? And sometimes that's why it's really good to get really good mentors, because good mentors will push you farther. I see you on here, Leafy. He's the man. I know that he pushes people really hard. With CrossFit. And that's what makes a difference. You push somebody so far, push them harder than they've ever been pushed, and then they push through that. That's when breakthroughs happen. You know what I mean? So I just wanted to touch on that. When you feel like giving up, like that's the most important time to keep going. So like if you get anything from hopping on here on this Whatever It Takes Wednesday episode 10 here, like remember that. Remember what what did Dan say? He said, like when I feel like giving up, that's when I should keep going, because that's when my breakthrough is going to happen. So what I do is like when I'm afraid, when I'm on it, let's say this is a cliff, right? You're at the edge of the cliff. You get to the edge of the cliff and you're afraid. You're afraid to jump. Right? So what I like to do, and I said it on one of my other episodes, is I just say, I'm just going to do this like it's the last thing I ever do. Like it's the last thing that I ever do. You know what I mean? Because that's just the way to do it. That's the way to do it. I mean, I'm like, there's a great explanation for what I'm talking about, but the explanation is to have a serious breakthrough. Because if you don't keep going when you're afraid to jump and take the leap of faith, and breakthroughs happen when you have faith too. You have to have faith to breakthroughs, because if you don't have faith and have vision and picture what you're going after, you're not gonna get there. You have to have faith, because we're talking about when we're talking about having breakthroughs and having success and doing something that you've never done before, you got to have faith because you can't see it. You can see it. You can see it by the vision, right? But what I'm saying is you can't see it. Like the trail's not blazed yet. You're blazing your own trail, right? So since you're blazing your own trail, you have to have faith. You know what I mean? Or else you're not going to get there. And what do you do? What do you do? What do you do? Like if it, it's like, you ever hear that saying, like, how do you eat an elephant, right? Like it's a big elephant. How do you eat an elephant? Like you hear that saying, like one bite at a time, right? How do you run a marathon? Like 1 foot. I always ground myself. I say 1 foot in front of the other. Because now I'm a runner. I'm getting ready to have a breakthrough next month on the 23rd. I'm going to run an 11K run. I know there's probably plenty of people in here that did 10-mile runs and plenty of people that done half marathons and stuff like that. But for me, that's growth. You know what I mean? For me, that's growth. That's me leveling up. That's me having my breakthrough. I'm afraid, but I'll do it anyway. You know what I mean? All right, I never ran 11K before. So I'm afraid, but I'm going to do it anyway. You know what I mean? So, and I have the goal set. If you don't have the goal set, you can't hit it. I remember years ago, I spoke in front of a room of like 100 and something people because I was in this network marketing company and I was hitting every single goal that I said. And I went up there and I did this presentation. I had this dartboard and I was showing like how you're going for your goals and things like that. And I showed a picture like, yeah, you're going for your goal, you miss it. And I showed that. I was like, you're going for your goal again, you miss it. You're going again for your goal again, and then the third time you hit it. And I was talking about how reckless people live, how reckless people are, and how they don't have goals. They don't have goals. I mean, they don't have a target. Could you imagine playing darts? Could you imagine playing darts without a dartboard? That's reckless, right? So that's how a lot of people live their life, right? They live their life, they're reckless. They're reckless because they don't have no destination. If you got in your car and drove and you didn't have a destination, where would you go? You would just drive in circles. Sometimes it's good to drive in circles. Maybe if you want to just, maybe think a little bit, and use it for a way to think or whatever. But if you drive your car and you don't have a destination, you're not going to go anywhere, right? It's almost like a hamster running on a wheel. You know what I mean? You want to be the hamster on the wheel? You know what I mean? You don't want to be the hamster on the wheel. The hamster on the wheel looks kind of silly, doesn't he? So you want to achieve greatness, right? You want to achieve greatness. You can't do that if you're running on a wheel. You know what I mean? And you don't have no destination. So I just wanted to touch in this episode, just have some time with myself and yourself, like one-on-one. I like to do that. I think it's cool. I don't plan on always having a guest on here, and I'll even have my friend Paul Beaster even do the show solo too, or whatever, because we're going to keep this movement going. But just wanted to touch on a couple of those success principles, because here's the thing. Last thing too, before I close this out. Here's the thing about success principles and things like that. Like, people read books, and they read quotes, things like that, and they're like, oh yeah, I know that quote, and they share that quote of this quote that the successful person's saying, but that doesn't mean that they understand the quote. You know what I mean? I talked about this in one of the last episodes. Like, your actual words is only around 7% of your communication. So around 7% of your communication, if tonality and body language is the rest of it, don't you think just saying a quote on Facebook or something like that, don't you think there's a lot bigger chunk of that that's below the surface of it? So if in communication words are only around 7%, tonality is around 20% or so, and your body language is around the remaining 70%. Don't you think if you just repeat a quote that somebody else is successful is saying, don't you think that there's more layers to it than just the words, right? So the reason why I talk about that is because people, they get this how-to information, or this quote that means this, or this that means that, but they don't really study the successful people and try to adopt their philosophies in life, adopt their principles, adopt their belief systems, and like try to blow the core, because like you can repeat a quote. It's cool. I repeat some quotes too. Like, I'm not saying that's a bad thing or not like that. But what I'm saying is there's a deeper level to it, because if you really understood what the successful person saying the quote was, then you would have what they have, and maybe even better. Yeah, you see what I'm saying? So I want to encourage us too. You know, hopping on here with me and being a smart follower. Following other people that are successful or are on their way. To focus on the philosophies and the business principles, that these people have, and do your best to endeavor to adopt them. See, notice how I said endeavor. I didn't say try. I say try means I'm constantly planning to fail or not do. Yoda says there is no try, there's only do or do not, right? So I always say endeavor instead of try. And I actually learned that from this call called the Think and Grow Rich call. So I learned that a few years ago. So Paul, if you're watching, I learned that from your show. That's another Paul Hutchinson. So anyway, thank you. I just want to say thank you for joining me on the show here for this short solo. Sorry if I wasn't looking at looking at you or the screen the whole time. Feel free to give me some more love or whatever, or comment below. If you catch this recording, feel free to give me your feedback. I appreciate the feedback, and I'll see you guys on next week's episode, where we're gonna dig in deep and do a reverse interview with my buddy Paul Beeser. Just an amazing person too. So it's going to be a really good show, and me and him really bounce off of each other really well, and so the show should be really good. So I'm going to close out. Thank you again, for coming, and I'll see you on the next episode. Bye for now.